In 1901, a traveling bottle cap salesman from Wisconsin filed a patent that would make him one of the most financially successful men in the history of male grooming. His name was King Camp Gillette, and his insight was not the straight razor. The straight razor already existed. Wet shaving already existed. His insight was that if you made the handle cheap enough and the blades disposable enough, men would stop thinking about shaving and simply buy. Automatically, every week, for the rest of their lives. By the time Procter & Gamble acquired his company in 2005, that single insight had become a $57 billion deal. Gillette controlled roughly 70% of the world's razor market. The pitch to the masses worked. Old money never bought it. Because old money already had relationships with houses that had been shaving the inheriting class for a century before King Camp Gillette picked up his first blade. These are not brands you will find at the pharmacy counter. Several have no advertising budget worth mentioning. At least one of the houses on this list has been making the same product, in the same way, on the same street, for longer than the United States has existed as a country. And you will not find a single one of them with a sponsored post. Here are 10 straight razors and wet shaving houses that only old money shaves with. And you have genuinely never heard of number 1. Stay with us until number 3, because number 3 has not left the same London address since the year Napoleon was cutting his way across Europe. And number 1 is a house so quiet, the man who runs Gillette today has most likely never encountered its name. If you believe a shave should be a ritual and not a reflex, subscribe to The Luxury Meltdown. We publish every week. Everything the luxury industry stopped telling you. Number 10. Dovo, Solingen, Germany. Founded 1906, the city of Solingen has been called the City of Blades since the Middle Ages. The knights who defended the castles of northern Europe sourced their swords from this city for centuries, and the tradition never broke. When 2 German craftsmen named Dorp and Woos, the D and the O in Dovo, established their straight razor forge in 1906, they were building on over 1,000 years of blade heritage in that single municipality. Every Dovo razor is still handmade in Solingen, ground, polished, and individually inspected before it leaves the workshop. The hollow grind on a Dovo blade, that concave geometry that gives the edge its flexibility and its closeness, is executed by hand to tolerances that no automated process has ever replicated to the same standard. The founders are long gone. The craft is identical. A Dovo straight razor ground before the Second World War and properly maintained will still shave. Old money does not replace a razor when the blade dulls. They strop it back to an edge, and when the geometry requires it, they send it to a honer. That is the distinction between a tool and a product. And it is the distinction Dovo was built around. Contemporary brands like Merkur and Müller, both also from the Solingen tradition, have done much to reintroduce German blade craft to the current generation of wet shaving enthusiasts. Dovo predates both and has never needed the introduction. Number 9. Tailor of Old Bond Street, London. Founded in 1854. On the 1st of September 1854, during the reign of Queen Victoria, a man named Jeremiah Taylor opened a grooming salon on fashionable Bond Street and built a reputation among London society for botanical shaving preparations made by hand from natural ingredients. The Sun moved the flagship to Jermyn Street, the street that has been synonymous with men's grooming in Britain for 2 centuries, and that is where it remains today. Taylor of Old Bond Street has never been absorbed by a conglomerate. It is still a family business. Their shaving creams lather with a density that most modern products cannot produce because the formula was not optimized for a factory. It was optimized for a face. A quality Badger hairbrush, loaded correctly and worked in circles against a Taylor shaving soap puck, produces a lather that no aerosol can has ever come close to matching. Their scent families are named after Jermyn Street itself, Eton College, and St. James. The men who have been buying Taylor of Old Bond Street since the 1950s still buy the same scent their fathers chose. Number 8. Thiers Issard, Thiers, France. Founded 1884. The town of Thiers in the Auvergne sits above the Douro River, and that river powered the grinding wheels of French cutlers for 700 years. Cutlery production in Thiers is first documented in the 13th century. Pierre Thiers was born into a family of master razor makers in this town. There were so many Thiers in Thiers that when he founded his own company in 1884, he named it after himself and his wife, whose name was Issard, so that clients could tell them apart. Thiers Issard is today the last French company still making straight razors. Their blanks come from Sheffield silver steel, the same steel heritage that built the British blade industry, and they are forged and tempered in France to standards the current owner, who has written 2 books on the subject of straight razors, oversees personally. The hollow grind geometry on their singing blades is inspected before each razor leaves the workshop. Their singing blades, named for the precise tone a correctly stropped edge produces as it moves across a hanging strop, are considered among the finest in the world. The act of stropping a Thiers Issard blade is not maintenance. It is a conversation with 2 centuries of French blade heritage. Number 7. Penhaligons, Jermyn Street, London. William Penhaligon was a barber and perfumer who established his house on Jermyn Street during the Victorian era and was appointed hairdresser to the royal court. The royal warrant that followed placed Penhaligons among the small number of grooming houses officially recognized by the Crown. Their shaving preparations are formulated with the same philosophy as their fragrances. No concessions to mass production. No reformulation for shelf stability at scale. Unlike most grooming brands that moved their shaving soap manufacturing offshore during the consolidation years of the 1970s and 80s, Penhaligons maintained their standards. They sell through their own shops and a carefully selected number of accounts. They do not advertise in the register that Gillette advertises. Their customer base does not need to be told. It was told by a father or an uncle, the way these things move in the circles where Penhaligons has always operated. Number 6. Geo F. Trumper, Curzon Street, Mayfair, London. Founded 1875. George Francis William Trumper opened his gentleman's barber shop at 9 Curzon Street in Mayfair in 1875. He did not simply cut hair. He descended to the vaults beneath the shop and blended fragrances and shaving preparations for his clients by hand. The products reached the royal court, and Queen Victoria awarded Trumper his first royal warrant. Every British monarch since Victoria has renewed it. The interior of the Curzon Street shop, the mahogany cubicles, the original glass cases, the Victorian shopfront remains largely unchanged from the year it opened. The extract of limes, Trumper's most famous fragrance, has been in continuous production for over 100 years. The distinctive pink paper it comes packaged in arrived during the First World War, when the usual green paper was rationed and the only available alternative was pink. Trumper kept it pink because by the time the war ended, the clientele had come to expect it. That is what a relationship between a house and its customers looks like over a century. The packaging changes because of a wartime shortage, and it never changes back. Number 5. D.R. Harris, St. James's Street, London. Founded 1790. Before the French Revolution. Before the United States Constitution was ratified. Before George Washington had been sworn in as the first president of a country that did not yet fully exist. D.R. Harris was already open on St. James's Street. Founded around 1790 by Henry Harris, a surgeon, and his relative Daniel Roteley Harris, a pharmaceutical chemist, it is the oldest apothecary in London. 236 years of continuous operation on one of the most storied streets in the city, in premises that still carry the original 19th century furniture and fittings. Their shaving soap formula has not been redesigned for a mass market because there is no mass market to redesign it for. Oscar Wilde was a loyal customer. The royal warrant has been held across multiple monarchs. Men who switch to D.R. Harris typically report the same thing, that shaving had never felt comfortable before, and they had assumed that was normal. That is not marketing. That is a formulation that has had 2.5 centuries to be understood. If you are still here, stay for the top 4, because the next 4 houses on this list make D.R. Harris, founded 1790, look like a relative newcomer. And number 1 is a name so quiet that even the most dedicated wet shaving collector has a reasonable chance of never having held one. Number 4. Böker, Solingen, Germany. Founded 1869. In the same city that had been supplying Europe's finest blades since the medieval period, Heinrich Böker established his cutlery company in 1869. The Böker tree, their long-standing trademark etched into every product, has been stamped on blades sold to the German establishment and to the old money households of North America for over 150 years. When the First World War disrupted German production, the Böker family maintained manufacturing capacity in the United States before consolidating back in Solingen after the conflict. Their straight razors are still made in the City of Blades to specifications drawn from a lineage of Solingen craftsmanship that predates the company itself by centuries. The honing angles on a Böker blade have not changed because the geometry was correct the first time. Böker does not advertise to men who shave. The men who shave with Böker were not acquired through a campaign. They were introduced to the house the way old money introduces anything of genuine quality, quietly, by someone who had already been using it for 30 years. Number 3. Truefitt Hill, London. Founded 1805. The year is 1805. Admiral Nelson is about to win the Battle of Trafalgar. King George III sits on the British throne, and William Francis Truefitt opens a gentleman's barber shop in London, the establishment that will, 2 centuries later, be certified by the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest barber shop on Earth. Truefitt Hill have served 9 consecutive British monarchs. The first royal warrant came from King George III, the same monarch who lost the American colonies. Winston Churchill sat in their barber's chairs. Frank Sinatra, Mahatma Gandhi, Laurence Olivier, Charles Dickens, and William Makepeace Thackeray both name-checked the house in their novels. The flagship on Old Bond Street has operated continuously since before most of the nations currently represented at the United Nations existed. The shaving creams, soaps, and brushes they sell today are built to the same specifications they developed 2 centuries ago for clientele, who considered anything less than absolute precision to be an insult. Truefitt Hill do not have a brand story. They have an unbroken operational record. Number 2. Floris London, Jermyn Street, London. Founded 1730. Juan Femenias. Floris arrived in London from Minorca in the early 18th century and opened his perfumery and grooming house at 89 Jermyn Street in 1730. The address has not changed. The shop has not moved. For approaching 300 years, Floris has produced fragrances, pomades, and shaving preparations for the British establishment, serving royalty, aristocracy, and the kind of client who finds the concept of branded advertising quietly vulgar. Multiple royal warrants across multiple reigns. The Floris shaving soaps are not sold on the premise of being the most efficient path to a smooth face. They are sold on the premise of being correct. The man behind the counter at 89 Jermyn Street will, if you have been a regular customer for long enough, remember not only which fragrance you prefer, but also your father's preference and whether it differed from yours. Several clients have been visiting the same address since before the Second World War. The house considers this unremarkable. Number 1. George Wostenholm Son, Sheffield, England. Founded 1745. Sheffield steel has been forming the blades that shaped the modern world since the 14th century. And from the middle of the 18th century, the house of George Wostenholm Son was making straight razors in that city under the I-Star XL mark, a stamp that, for the men who knew what they were looking at, indicated the highest grade of Sheffield blade production available. In the same Sheffield tradition, Wade and Butcher were producing blades of comparable renown to Wostenholm, and collectors of vintage Sheffield straight razors will know both names with equal reverence. But it is Wostenholm that sat at the top of the Sheffield hierarchy. Wostenholm supplied the Victorian establishment, the officer classes of the British Army across the Napoleonic era and beyond, and the old money households of Britain and colonial North America for the better part of 2 centuries. A pre-war Wostenholm blade, maintained correctly through proper honing and stropping, and still in use, is considered by the men who shave with vintage straight razors to be among the finest cutting edges a man can put to his face. The hollow grind geometry, the Sheffield silver steel composition. The hand finishing that no modern production run has replicated. Wostenholm did not survive into mass production. They did not compromise to remain solvent. They stopped making razors on their own terms, and what they left behind is now passed through families, the way a good hunting rifle is passed from father to son, with the expectation that the son understands what he has been given and what he owes it. Most of the men who know Wostenholm's name heard it from someone who will not tell you where to find one. That is the definition of old money's relationship with quality. The best things are not advertised. They are inherited. The houses on this list were not kept quiet by accident. They were kept quiet deliberately by clientele who understood that the moment something is sold to everyone, it stops belonging to anyone in particular. King Camp Gillette sold men. The idea that shaving was a problem to be eliminated as cheaply and efficiently as possible. Old money never had that problem. They had a house they were loyal to, a blade they maintained, a badger brush they loaded with soap that smelled like the same street their grandfather visited, and a ritual they did not discuss with anyone who had not earned the right to know about it. If this video made you think differently about what is sitting in your bathroom cabinet, smash that like button. It helps this video reach the men who are tired of being sold a subscription when what they actually want is a blade they can hand to their son. Drop a comment below. Are you a number 3 man, Truefitt and Hill? A number 9, Taylor of Old Bond Street? Or did number 1 change everything you thought you knew? I read every single comment, and I want to know where you land. If you have not subscribed to the Luxury Meltdown yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Every week, we pull back the curtain on what the luxury industry has stopped telling you. I would love to have you with us, because the best razor in the world is not the one with the most blades. It is the one nobody told you existed.